So today we are learning Be'ez Hashem. We're on Brochas Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph 52, side A. We are almost just past halfway down. Says the gemorah V'savi Beishamai Birchas HaMazoin Tuna Kais. So the Brisa said that when you come home after Shabbos and you don't have enough wine to do Havdalah and have the meal, bench on a kais, so Beishamai said, what should you do? Come home, say Yain, Ma'or, Besomim, and then do Havdalah. Right? Says Beishamai, so ask Gemara, V'savi Beishamai Birchas HaMazoin Tuna Kais. This Beishamai ascribed to this opinion that you have to bench on a kais. Maybe Beishamai doesn't demand a kais. But now we learned in the Mishnah, why should this guy at the end of the meal make a boy pregofen, not drink, and then bench, and then drink? Why would you make a bracha before you bench? What's going on? So at the time he wants to drink, he drinks a little bit. We spoke yesterday, a couple days ago, the Rashba says, because he wants to do Birchas HaMazoin D'Oraisa, he wants to drink some water or wine, which the Savata means now you've drunk, so now you're Chaim Birchas HaMazoin D'Oraisa. So he tasted the time that he makes a bracha, he tastes a little bit, now he benches, and he's good. Didn't we learn Tamoi Pagmoi? If you taste from the cup of wine, you're pagan, you ruin the cup. Okay, it's a pagam. The cup is now no longer befitting to bench on. So we can't be talking about a case where you tasted, then you bench, and then you bathe another berry break off on the cup of wine. So Gemara answers a chiddush. You got the cup of wine, and it's machlek is what this means. Either you pour, after you said berry break often, you pour the wine into your hand, and then you drink from your hand. That's one malach. If you drink from the cup, so now the cup's gone. Your germs go in the cup, you're plague in the cup's out. Cup's gone if you drink from the cup. You can no longer bench on the cup. But if you pour from the wine into your hand, and you drink from the hand a little bit, it's not a bracha of a tola, and the cup's good. Others say the tola biyade means you hold the cup like this at the top, and you drink, the wine passes over your thumb. So you don't actually, as long as your lips don't touch the cup, the germs didn't go. It wasn't breaking of the cup. I don't know if there's a germs issue, but the wine goes over your thumb, over your finger. That's what it means. The time le biyode. Says the Gemara, he drank from this cup of wine, so you now it's no longer a full cup. You're supposed to bench, and what do we say? You need a share. You've got less than a share now. He's not asking because you don't have a share, you don't have a full cup. He's asking you drank from the cup, so now you no longer have the quantity required. The nafish lay trei mishurei. He's saying, it's talking about a case where you started off with more than you need. So now you drank a bit, you still have how much you need. You start off with more than you need. What are you talking about? It says you've only got one cup. That's what we're talking about. You've only got one cup. Otherwise, if you've got two cups, you'll make it before and you'll make after on two separate cups. We talk about a case where you got one cup. So the Gemara answers a basic answer. You don't have two cups. You got more than one. Okay, so he's talking about you got one and a bit. So you've got a share. You drink a bit beforehand. You still got one, but you don't have two. Like was for Tanya Reb Chaim taught. Now Reb Chaim, it's important to remember, Reb Chaim was considered a Tana. He's also an Amoira. He argues, he's busy arguing with all the Amoraim. He was a generation between the Mishnah and the Gemara. He's Tana Polik. He's considered a Tana, he can argue. But also an Amoira, he's arguing with Amoraim. So Tanya Reb Chaim, Tanya is a Lashon of a Brisa, like it's the Lashon of a Mishnah. Tanya, we have a Brisa, Reb Chaim says, Beishamai Oimrim, Beishamai, teach us, mevarach al yayin v'sheisehu. You make a bracha on the yayin v'sheisehu, meaning you drink the whole cup. Doesn't mean you drink a little bit. You said a bracha should be left out. It means you drink the cup of wine. Why are you drinking before Birchas HaMazoin? He wants to drink. Let the poor guy drink. V'achach mevarach Birchas HaMazoin. So we're not talking about, according to Reb Chaim, we're not talking about a case where you sipped a little bit. You have to drink the whole cup, according to Beishamai. Ella, says the Gemara, Trey Tanai Alibid Beis Shammai. It's a machlekes Tanayim what Beis Shammai held. They drink the whole cup, or they drink just a little bit? So it's going to turn out that according to this Reb Chaim, according to Beis Shammai, there's no chiyuv for a kais afterwards because you drank the whole cup. According to Reb Chaim, according to Beis Shammai, there's no chiyuv levarach al kais. But according to the other opinions, there is a chiyuv to bench on a kais, even in Beis Shammai. So that's a machlekes here. Summary: does Beis Shammai hold there's a chiyuv to bench on a kais? First opinion is, yeah. Here he drank a little bit before, but he's going to bench on a full kais afterwards. According to Reb Chaim, in Beis Shammai, you drank the whole cup, and now you've got no cup for benching. You're right. According to Beis Shammai, you drink the cup before, and then you bench without a cup. So according to Beis Shammai, you've got an opinion that holds you don't have to bench on a kais. Just as a summary, since we've been talking about benching on a kais, and this is the end of the sugya. So the Shulchan Aruch brings three opinions. The first opinion is, first of all, the gemorah doesn't differentiate between benching and a kais. If there's one guy, if it's three people, if it's Shabbos, if it's weekday, whenever you wash, you should bench. Whenever you bench, you're supposed to bench on a kais. That's the first opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. And the Shulchan Aruch's first opinion of the Chabad brings down is, if you don't have a cup of wine, what should you do? Don't wash. Don't eat. Have a banana. I think the lotion is, I can't remember, you skip one suda, buy the second suda ready. If you don't have for the second suda ready, you're allowed to, right? Second opinion is, you can wash, you can eat, and you don't mention a kais, but really you should. There's a third opinion that now, if you mention yeshivs, alpi the zaya, alpi kabbalah for some reason, I didn't get a chance to check it. You don't hold the cup. It says the Ramah, you leave the cup on the table, but you don't hold it. To be to the sheet of the zaya, it says when you biyachid, don't bench on a kais. The Mishnah Bur already says that now there's a minhag is when you biyachid, you don't bench on a kais. Look, I sort of Moshe brings down because there's from hundreds of years wine was so expensive. Wine was the luxury of luxuries. They barely, and you see it in the halacha, they barely had wine for Pesach, for Arba Kaises, they didn't have wine. So the minhag was they stopped benching ala kais. So now it didn't become a chiv anymore, even though we saw the Gemara says that someone who benches ala kais is zeicha to nachla bli mitzarim, eternal bliss. This world and the next world. Ba'ilam hazeh, ba'ilam haba. It's machlekes of bliss in this world or in the next world. We discussed how important it is to bench on the kais that you bench. When you bench on the kais, it says it has to be kais mole. It's overflowing. That you look at it and you feel Hashem's shefa. That's the whole point of Birchas Hamazon, to thank Hashem. You feel that there's overflowing with shefa. You're thanking Hashem and you've got more shefa in your hand. There's wine in your hand and it's overflowing. So that's the point of benching on a kais l'chaira. That's Pasha Pshat. I don't think it's a big chiddush. And therefore, the Gemara says when you thank Hashem like that, we said, it's like, you sit down with your friends, something good happens, your daughter gets married, you pick up a kais, l'chaim, thank you. You had a fat meal, thank Hashem. Why? You pick up a kais of yain, you say thank you Hashem, with a cup of wine. That's how you're supposed to thank someone. Let's have a drink together. L'chaim. Okay. It says the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanon, Beis Shammai Yomim, Tanu Rabbanon. Beis Shammai Yomim, Meikli Yadayim, V'achach Meizin Esakais. First, you wash your hands, and then you pour the wine. So you come into the table, you're going to wash your hands from Moitzi, but you're also drinking wine. So what do you do first? Meizin Esakais, V'achach Meikli Yadayim. Sorry, Meikli Yadayim, V'achach Meizin Esakais. You first wash your hands, and then you pour the wine. She'im, why? Why do you first wash your hands? If you're going to first pour the wine, we're worried. What's going to happen? We're going back in those days when they were makbid on tumma and tyra, things being impure and pure. So we're worried that this cup is going to have drips on the outside of it. The cup's not fully dry. The cup's going to be moist on the outside. Mashkin shachayre akais. The drips on the outside of the cup. Machmas yadai. V'yachzor v'yitamas akais. Now, he's going to go ahead. If he goes ahead and first picks up the cup before he washes his hands are tamei, and there's going to be water on the outside of the cup, and that's going to be matame the cup. Ask the gemorah, tell me a damn lakais. why are we not worried? Why are we not worried that his hand is going to be mitama the kais? Again, so he's first going to wash his hands and then he pours the cup. Because if we say you first pour the cup, right? You're going to first pour the cup. So what's going to happen? He's going to, the water that's outside the cup is going to be mitama his hand. And now it's going to be mitama what he's drinking inside. So ask gemorah, either way, his hand now, if he touches the kais, it's going to be mitama the whole kais. The gemorah answers the hands can't be mitama the kais. We're worried that the kais is going to be mitama his yadayim. Yadayim shniyas him. Why? Because the hands is shniyas. Your hands is not original tumah. It's not, there's tumah rishayna, and then rishayna make, if you touch rishayna you become a shniya, and the shniya you touch shniya you become a shlishis. So ein shayna isa shlishi. Since his hands midrabanan, it's all midrabanan we're talking about here. His hands only have a din of tumah shniya, and since tumah shniya can't make it clear tumah shlishis, there's no such a thing as tumah shlishis with a kli. Ein sheni isa shlishi b'chulin. Okay, there's no problem with shlishis of chulin. A sheni is allowed to touch food that's a shlishis. Ella al yedei mashkin. The only problem is if it's wet. In other words, we're not worried about a dry hand touching a dry cup, making it tomei. But if it's wet, so the water refreshes it midrabanan and makes it rishon. And now that mashkin is going to go ahead and make the food inside a sheni, or the kais a sheni. But only if it's wet. If his hand's dry, there's no problem. Now, Beis Hillel says, Beis Hillel Leimrim, now, Ma'is going to sakais, you first pour the cup, va'achach noitel nidayim, and then what you do, then you wash your hands. Why? You first pour the cup, then you wash your hands. If you go ahead and you wash your hands first, we're worried that you're going to go ahead and be metame your hands because of the kais. Now, the kais is we're worried that the kais is tamei. If you wash your hands first, so what's going to happen? Your hands are wet. You're not going to dry it properly, and that's going to go ahead and be metame the kais, and your hands are going to pick up tumah from the kais. So, and the gemorah asks, why can't the kais be mitama yadayim? Let's take a look in Rashi. The second line in Rashi, the second wide line. Why does Beis Hillel say you have to have water on your hands in order to be mitame, the other way around? Even if your hands are dry, yitama kais liyadayim. The kais should become tame. Sorry, the kais should be mitame the hands. Well, you got this kais, it's tame. It's going to be mitame hands. Ovid Beis Hillel tekantu the shaseh kodim tila. Even though we're talking about the cup before you eat, Beis Hillel said you drink it before you wash your hands. Okay, so we're not worried about tumah. We're worried that even if this cup, there's not going to be a problem with it because this cup's dry, but he's going to drink in the meal. This guy's going to drink in the meal, and the kais is going to be tomei. He's going to touch the kais. The kais is going to be mitame his hand. Then he's going to pick up food and eat the food. He's going to be mitame the food. That's what we're worried about. The food is going to be mitame his hands. He's going to become tomei from the cup of the meal. So Gemara answers, Yadayim shniyah saying, no, hands is always shniyas. There's a gemorah on hands. The chum guys of the hands are shniyas, and therefore you have to wash your hands before you eat. It's not rishayna. Ve'en sheni isa shlishi b'chulin. A hand which is a sheni can't make a shlishi in chulin. Ella alidei mashkin. Only if the cup's wet. So Beis Hillel moizgen sakais, and therefore they say pour the cup and then you wash your hands. That way, your wet hands, we're not worried about wet hands. After you wash your hands, we're worried that your hands didn't dry fully, right? Still going to be a bit wet. But if you make kiddush, if you drink the wine before you wash your hands dry, the cup is dry. And your hands shiny, you can't make the cup shlishis, because there's no shlishi in chulin. There's no such a thing as the third one, third level. If you wash your hands first, what are we worried about? Beishamai says wash your hands first, then pick up the cup. Says Beishamai, if you wash your hands first, what's going to happen? V'yitnu es ha-yadayim, v'nitnu kais yadayim, ein kli metame adam. We're not worried about a cup in the meal being metame your hand. Ein kli metame adam. A kli can't be metame a person. Klal. V'nitnu lemashki shebetaychai. So we're not worried that the cup's going to be metame the guy, because the kli is sheni, and the kli can't be metame a person. Okay. V'nitnu lemashki shebetaychai. Maybe the kli, the water outside the cup, will go ahead and be metama the water inside the cup. So, we're talking about here a case where the outside of the cup is tome. The toichay tar v'gabay tome. What's the din? The rule is if it's outside is tome, inside is tahor. There's two different. You look at the cup. There's two different objects. Just because it's tome outside doesn't mean it's going to be tome inside. So the water outside the cup, if he touches the cup, the water is going to be tome. But inside the cup, tar. There's no problem. The cup doesn't transfer the tumah. This none. How do I know this? It says in the Mishnah. If you metame kli with outside water of a cup becomes tome. Complicated stuff here. I apologize. The outside is tome, but the inside of the cup, the rim of the cup, the top, the handles, it means like a small coffee handle that looks like an ear. Oizen is an ear. The yodov, it's talking about like a long handle. Tahirin, that's all tahar. So just because the outside of the cup has a little bit of tome juice on it, water, wine, inside the handle, the long handle, the rim of the cup, that's all tahar. Nitma teicha, if the inside becomes tome, nitma kulai, then the whole thing's tome. Okay, so that's how Beis Hillel understands. The gemorah is not understand, but my community, what's the machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel? What's going on over here? What's the whole machlokes? What's going on? Beis Shammai savri also lishtamish bekli shnit machayev v'mashkin. Beis Shammai holds that if the outside of the kli is tame, you're not allowed to use it. Why? Gzeira b'shem nitzah, it says. Beis Shammai says there's a gzeira. The outside of the cup is tame, the inside is tar. No one disagrees with that. Everyone agrees. Outside tame, inside tar. But guess what? Beis Shammai chayshish. The outside's wet. It's going to spritz. You put the cup down, a little bit of that water is going to go inside, and now the whole thing's tame. So Beis Shammai makes a gzeira. If the outside is tame, you can't use the cup. Beis Shammai says also Shammai klishnit b'achayim b'mashkin. Gzeira Hashem says it. And there's no reason to go ahead and make a gzeira. There's no reason to assume that the mashkin is going to go ahead and be metama the hands. Now, Beis Hillel goes ahead and they say, you're allowed to use a cup that's outside tome. Amri, why? We're not worried about a drop flying off and going into the cup. Doesn't happen. Check it out. Do an experiment. Beis Hillel says it's not shchiach. We're not going for such a thing. Says the gemorah, we should be we're worried about your wet hands, machmas hakais. That's going to become tummy from the kais. That's what we're worried about. We're not worried about if it's going to go in the cup. We're worried about your hands are going to become tummy from these drops on the outside of the cup. Therefore, according to Beis Hillel, you don't wash because we're worried you're going to get tummy from the cup. According to Beis Shammai, we don't want the cup to get wet and make the inside tummy. Definitely you should have to wash your hands beforehand. That's a machlekes b'Yisrael. Beishami dover acher. Whole different pshat over here. Tum and Tyra. Baruch Hashem, we don't have to keep it nowadays. What can I say? Dover acher techav l'tisidayim suda. The machlekes b'Yisrael b'Yisrael has got nothing to do with Tum and Tyra. There's another opinion over here, which is again nowadays. That what? Techav l'tisidayim suda. As soon as you wash, eat. That's what you should do. In other words, that's the machlekes. According to Beis Hillel, you make kiddush and then you wash it and you eat straight away. According to Beis Shammai, there's no problem with doing a hefsek of having the wine after you eat, after you wash your hands. But that's the shayla over here. Do we say suda? So my dover acher. What's this dover acher? This is what Beisel said to Beishamai. Ledidchu, come to you. Damrisu also shtavish beklisha chayav tmeim. Do you say that there's this gzeira? Don't use this cup. It's tummy on the outside. The gazrina mishum tzaitas. Why is it going to spritz? I feel hachi. Even so, you should agree with me. The techav is daim suda. It's better to do my way because you shouldn't do a hefsek between washing and eating. Oh, you should make a hefsek. That's what the Gemara is saying. This dover acher. Now, this is not the only reason why Beisil says this. He agrees to what he said before. He's keeping to that. He's saying, even according to you, do you hold that the Talmud, there's no reward for nitzaitzes? Still, there's a bigger issue called not doing a hefsek between when you wash and eat. Like we know nowadays, you wash, you know how to talk, you're going to start making kiddush, people are going to drink. They're shedding svein. He's worried that people are going to sit down and have kiddush and talk, and it's going to be a hefsek. Says the gemorah. Beishamai oimrim mekaneach. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Beishamai oimrim mekaneach yad v'manato v'mat v'manicha l'shulchan. Interesting question over here. Beishamai says you wash your hands, then you take this mappa, you dry your hands on a towel, right? Where'd you put the towel? On the table. You put the towel on the table. If you say put the towel on the chair, we're worried this towel's wet. We're worried that the towel now, which is wet, is going to become tomei from this chair. Now he's going to wipe his hands on this towel in the middle of the meal. He gets some ketchup on his hands. He wipes his hands on this napkin. The napkin is now tomei from the chair because the towel was wet, so it could pick up the tumah. And now you just metame your hands. He's eating with tomei yadayim. What was the point of washing your hands? So Gemara asks, "V'nitmi kases lemapa." Why doesn't the chair make the towel tomei?
The table.
V'nitmi kases. Hold on. The chair, kases.
Something's wrong here because we said we put it on the table.
No, you put it on the. He said, hold on. It says Beis Shammai again. Beis Shammai, put it on the table. If you put it on a chair, there's a gzeira, right? So machmas akeses. We worry that it's going to become tomei. Yachsav yitam and say daim. So
assumedly, if you put it on the table, it doesn't become tamei.
If you put it on the table, it's not going to become tomei. The table's not tomei. He says, Beis Shammai holds the table's tar. So we're not worried he put it on the table. The table's tar. So the question is, v'nitame kasas lemapa, the chair should be mitame the mappa, even if it's not wet. Even if it's not wet, the Gemara is asking, this towel should become tomei from the chair. The Gemara says, ein kli mitame kli. A kli can't be mitame kli.
Unless it has to have a vehicle to become.
So you have to have this, it has to be moist. Ein kli mitame kli, v'nitame kasas legavra. Why isn't the chair making the guy? This guy sitting on this chair. Why is the chair making him Tomei? The Tame Kesel Gava Gufe. Moraz ain't clean Matame Adam. A chair can't be Matame Adam. A chair can't make someone impure. They say, ala keses. Where do you put this towel? You put it on the keses. If you say you put it on the table, he's worried that the shulchan is going to make the mappa, the table is going to make this mappa tomei.
Anything can become tamei through wet.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Once it's wet, the tumah spreads. The water transfers the tumah. In fact, it goes back. If it's a sheni, it goes back to rishon, and now the next thing becomes a sheni. The water is like a rishon, so it keeps the same darga. It doesn't go from, because there's no shlishi. Two can't make three because there is no shlishi b'chulim. We'll see there's shlishi b'truma, there is shlishi, but there's no shlishi b'chulim. So, but if something's a sheni and then you make it wet, the water is now rishon, and then that makes the next thing sheni.
Right.
Complicated stuff. You got to put the towel on the chair. Why? If you put the towel on the table, the towel is going to go ahead and absorb from the table. And now you're going to go ahead and be matam all the food. So the gemorah asks, if the table's tamei, the table's matam of the food. So the gemorah asks, the shulchan is a sheni. The shulchan is not a rishon. Shulchan is a sheni l'tumah. It's a number 2. The ain't sheni is a shlishi b'chulim, and the 2 can't make it 3. So the table can't make the food 3. But Ella, they mashkin only through the wet towel. If the wet towel now becomes a rishon, the wet towel touches the food, then the food's going to become tamei. So so what's the crux? What's the argument with Beis Shammai V'Hillel? Beis Shammai says you're not allowed to use a shulchan sheni. So you never use a shulchan sheni. Therefore, there's no problem putting a towel on the table. The table's never a sheni, right? Beis Hillel, why? Because why can't you use a shulchan sheni? Because sometimes the guy's eating truma, the guy is eating truma, and a sheni can make truma shlishi, and you can't eat it. It asks, it's not called shlishi. Sheni will ask a truma, call it a shlishi. That's how Rashi doesn't use the word shlishi. Rashi says, sheni will ask a truma. So Beis Shammai says you're never allowed to eat off a table, even if you're not a kohen. You're never allowed to eat off a table to sheni. Why? Because maybe a kohen's going to come, he'll put his truma sandwich down, and you just made it treif. You just made it tomei, impure. Beis Hillel sabri mutal shtamish b'shulchan sheni. Beis Hillel says you're allowed to eat from a table that's a sheni. Okay, that's the machlekes. Why? Why can you eat from a shulchan sheni? Because oichle truma is reason hein. The kohanim eat truma. There's reason. They're careful. They're medactic. These people, the Talmud Chacham, they know. Okay, we're running very late. We're running out of time. We should try and see another couple of lines. Dovar acher, another pshat. Ein niteish daim mechulim min haTorah. This is what Beis Hillel is saying. Ein niteish daim mechulim min haTorah. Min haTorah, biblically, you never have to wash your hands for tumah, right? And therefore, my dovar acher. So what is dovar? My dovar acher. This is what it means. This is what Beis Hillel told Beis Shammai. Why is Beis Shammai more worried that we're going to make the food tomei, that we're going to make the hands tomei? Sorry, why is Beis Shammai more worried you're going to make the hands tomei and not the food tomei? Beis Shammai says we're worried the hands are going to become tomei. We're not worried the food's going to become tomei. Right? I'm right. You know why? There's no such thing as washing your hands as tumas yadayim in a Torah. So mutav shitami yadayim v'leis lukum midaraisa. Since there's never a real sherish of tum of yadayim midaraisa, since food can be tomei biblically, with geyser on having tomei food. But since hands can never become tomei midaraisa, we don't have to worry that maybe your hands become tomei. That's what Beis Hillel is telling Beis Shammai. We're always more worried about food becoming tomei than about hands becoming tomei, because this has a shayrish midaraisa and this doesn't have a shayrish midaraisa. Sorry about this complicated sugya. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Have a wonderful day.